the mix, because I think we've seen that you've been around now. The portal's been, 4 years now? I think coaches are starting to understand what the mix should be. Like you say, hey, I'm going to fill needs, but I'm also going to build a foundation with some of these high school guys. And this is why I think it was so valuable what you're hiring. Listen to what you said. I know coaches that are high school coaches around the state. Right. So you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm interested in this guy. Can this guy play? And he's going to give you an honest assessment that he can play, he can build a program and things like that. So I think that's what's such an advantage for you, playing in the state, coaching in the state, now at one of the flagship HBCUs in the state, and that's going to be to your advantage. So, Coach, I'm going to turn it over to these guys, but I'm going to come back. Like I said, we're going to talk about the Legacy Bowl a little bit.
We got to.
All right.
Doug and Shaq did a great job with that, man. Great job.
Coach, is Coach Cole's frozen?
It look. Hey, I don't think he can sit that still. So maybe.
All right. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Coach. Let's get into the Legacy Bowl, right?
Okay.
But I want to talk about something that I think that you got unfairly characterized when you did your press conference at Alabama A&M. You were very reserved. You were very corporate, and I think you had a strategy that you wanted to show calmness, that you wanted to show what kind of guy you are. And I think, again, we know social media. Oh, Coach, because everybody wants to see the rah-rah dancing and all that foolishness, right? Coach, you know how it goes.
Right.
But the thing that I was most enjoyable, I watched many videos of you getting at those young men, and I saw that last speech that you gave those guys before you went out there on that field and told those guys what this was all about. So, Coach, first of all, talk about that side of you, your actual coaching personality, and what that means, and talk about how did you coach the defense, and did Coach TC kind of do the offense, or did you kind of mix it up? And also, and we'll get into some of the players that you say, hey, these guys, if they do what they need to do, could potentially be pros. So let's talk about first the personality and what you showed down in the Legacy Bowl that people really didn't get to see at the press conference.
Well, I got to start off and say, that Coach Taylor and I, man, I really enjoyed, the weeks leading up to the game. Coach Taylor and I talked a good bit, about strategy and things like that. And it was both of our first times being in the game. And so the first thing we had to do, we had to pick a staff. And so we had to pick 5 guys. I had to pick 5. He had to pick 5. And we had to kind of put that together. And so we actually ended up, with Coach Alexander, our offense coordinator, actually was the offense coordinator and the O-line coach for the game. And then on defense, Coach Quinn, Jackson State's defense coordinator, was actually the defense coordinator for the game. And then Coach Jones actually was the special teams coordinator. So, and all those guys did a great job. The rest of the staff members that were there from both schools did a magnificent job. Matter of fact, to the point where, honestly, Coach Taylor and I didn't have to do a whole lot of coaching. We really didn't, because that coaching staff we put together, all those guys are excellent coaches and do a great job. And you just saw it. You saw it in the meetings. You saw it in the practices. You saw it in the walkthroughs. And so for Coach Taylor and myself, we kind of just floated around. Like, I didn't focus on just the defense. He didn't focus on just the offense. We were kind of all over the place and, really trying to just pour into those young men that were there. I was excited about just getting to know some of those guys and spending some time with some of those players. And it was a tremendous opportunity for myself, my coaching staff. And then you talked about, I guess, before the game, we talked all week with those players about, man, this is an opportunity. And I'm one of those guys, man. I'm always talking about, I think you're talking about before the game, man, about opportunity knocking on that door, man. And the first thing, you got to be ready when opportunity knocks. Like, at some point, it's going to knock. If you're in athletics, if you're in football, an opportunity is going to come up. But the question is, are you going to be ready when the opportunity comes up? So when opportunity knocks, are you going to be ready to open that door and you're going to be able to take advantage of that opportunity? And that's what we talked about with those players all week, man. We felt like the assistant coaches did a great job of pouring into those guys all week, pouring knowledge into them and getting them back used to playing football, because some of those guys hadn't played a game since like beginning of November. So one of the biggest things was getting those guys back into the rhythm of playing football. And I thought the coaching staff did a great job with that all week.
Now, Coach, one of the things, now, I guess you're going to take credit. You and Coach Taylor can take credit because you had not only the offensive MVP, you had the defensive MVP. So I'm going to kind of talk about a couple of guys that you actually coached on your side. You had James Burgess. You had Robert McDaniel, Irv Mulligan. You had Kendall Bowler, Pruitt. Talk about some of those guys that you got the chance to coach directly, and what did you see for us, those guys trying to get to the next level, and what were you able to say, hey, I've been here and I see some of the things that, or better yet, also let me help you some of the things as far as technique or even mindset?
Well, I think it started with, Coach Taylor and myself, being guys that have played on the NFL level. I felt like those guys were really just hanging on pretty much every word, when we did address the team, because we were talking about the opportunity that was at hand. And we were talking about the approach and the attention to detail, all those things that they needed to have and show during the week, because there were a lot of all 32 teams were around during the week, and it started off with the HBCU Combine on Monday. So you had all 32 teams there for that, and I got to stop. I'd be remiss, man, if I don't mention, man, Doug Williams and Shaq Harris, man, two guys that I've had a chance to get to know over the years that are just doing great things for HBCU athletics, HBCU football. And, that game, the sponsorships in that game were just awesome. You've got so many great sponsors that make that game what it is. And my hat just goes off to everybody involved in it. But just going back to the players, some of those guys, like you mentioned, man, just had great seasons, great college careers, and they could have easily said they weren't going to play in the game. Like they could have gone practice a couple of days, had a couple of good practices, and said, I'm not going to play. But the majority of those guys, they practiced hard all week, had some great performances in practice, and then they took it to the game. The one thing about the game that's tough is we had 5 running backs that I felt like all 5 of them were good running backs, 3 quarterbacks that we felt like were all good quarterbacks. And then you've got 6 wide receivers that are all good wide receivers. And you get in the game and it's hard to showcase those guys because, it's an all-star game. You want to play everybody. You want to try to, balance out the amount of reps they get as far as touches, balls thrown to them at receiver, handoffs at running back. So there's some guys that had some really good weeks that didn't maybe get an opportunity to do as much in the ball games.
Coach, I want to ask you this, Coach. Last year, the game was marred, in my opinion, by probably the best prospect in HBCU football last year being injured in the game.
Right.
Did that factor into any of the preparation or any of the gameplay that you guys planned out for the game or anything? Did that play a factor, or was that just addressed as part of football?
Well, actually, there were some things in the rules for the ball game that probably that they didn't use the year before. For instance, there were no quarterback design runs in the game. So, for instance, if it was 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 4th and inches, you couldn't put the quarterback on the center and run a quarterback sneak. We couldn't run any RPOs, the run pass options where quarterback fakes it to the back and he can either run it or throw it. We couldn't do any of that type of stuff because there was an emphasis put on protecting those quarterbacks and, just making sure that, that we didn't have any design runs for those guys. And I was okay with that. I think that's fine because, in an all-star game, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much time you got with them. And so I felt like that might have helped the defense a little bit, but at the same time, player safety is always a good deal, especially in an all-star game.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you guys finished with the Legacy Bowl a little bit?
I got one other thing, and then I'll let Coach go.
Yeah.
Coach, a lot of these guys, as you know, are more likely going to be low draft picks and, free agent pickups. How much did you talk to these guys about being strong on special teams, running down hard on the kickoffs, and doing your assignments on special teams? Did you guys talk to them about that? Because that's a gateway for a lot of those players to again grow into being NFL players. Did you guys emphasize that a lot during the course of the week and kind of letting them understand that while you were a star on this level, there are other things that you might need to do to get to the NFL?
Yes, that was a heavy emphasis put on it from myself and a lot of the other coaches that particularly played in the NFL. Myself, I actually didn't become a full-time starter until my third year in the NFL. So my first 2 years, I had to earn a living and be on that team by playing special teams. I shared that with those players. And there were other coaches on staff. Coach Ronald McKinnon played 10 years in the NFL. He's one of them that was there, our linebacker coach. And, obviously Coach Taylor, he played in the NFL and he was able to break that down. So those guys definitely understood that. And then you look at the game, the big receiver from North Carolina Central, big kid that can really run. I thought he stood out on special teams. I thought that he did a great job in coverage, covering punts, getting down there, making tackles, causing fair catches. And that's a big receiver that can run and catch and also jump. And we know he's a good receiver, but now people know he can be a good special teams player. So that's going to help him.
Hey, Coach, last question, Coach, about the Legacy Bowl. Being that you coached on the D2 level and you're now at the Division I level, what do you see at the very top? Because the Legacy Bowl features the very, very best players that HBCUs has to offer. Is there much of a difference between that D2 player and that really good HBCU player?
Well, I don't think there's a big difference between that top Division II player and that top D1 player. I really don't. I think that, it's maybe a situation where you're fortunate, like, for instance, a guy like Jada Byers, the running back from Virginia Union. Obviously I thought he was, just as good as any running back there. And you don't know why he stayed at Virginia Union. Matter of fact, I had a chance to talk to some of those coaches that were there, like Dr. Parker and his running back coach at Virginia Union. We had a chance to talk, and those guys talked about, yes, he had a chance to leave Virginia Union and go other places, but for certain reasons he decided to stay, and so that's how some of those Division II players that are there, for whatever reason, they decided to stay at the college they were at, and instead of going up, because trust me, they all had opportunities to go up to the FCS level at least. And same thing with the Division I players. So there's not a big difference when you start talking about the top guys from Division II.
Yeah. Coach, I had opportunity to call the last game of the year, Alabama A&M's last game of the year. And I don't think is England back, the running back?
No, he was actually at the game. He participated in the HBCU Legacy Bowl and did a great job during the week. Really did.
And you spoke about Cornelius Brown, the quarterback?
Yes, Quad Brown, Cornelius Brown. Yeah. He's back.
Yeah. How, when you went about recruiting, when you came in, did you evaluate film or did you just hit the ground recruiting? How did that work out for you and your staff? Did you guys had a plan on, you're watching these games, you're watching the defense, let's come together and start talking about our needs before you went out to coach, or you just started recruiting?
No, we started with evaluating the team that was here, that was here at Alabama A&M. That was the first thing, was to evaluate these guys and see what the needs were, see what the strengths were for this team, see what the weaknesses were. And so that's how it started. And then we knew what we needed to try to go out and get as far as in recruiting. That's how we kind of, figured that out.
How many guys did you have coming back on offense and defense?
Well, that's funny you say that, because when I got the job, there were 23 players here at Alabama A&M that were in the transfer portal. And we did lose some of those guys. There were a couple offensive linemen that, should have been back that moved up to FBS. Obviously there was some financial stuff to that. Then we lost a safety on defense, similar situation. So that's the part. So we actually offensive line wise, it would have been nice to bring those guys back, and then in the secondary. But we're actually bringing back not many starters from last year's team on either side of the ball. We've got some work to do.
Is Kimber coming back?
Say again?
The wide receiver.
You talking about Hambrick, Keenan?
Yeah, Hambrick. I'm sorry. Hambrick,
he played in the Legacy Bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in the Legacy Bowl too. So
okay.
No, we've got some holes to fill. We do it, and you know what, Coach? He had a really good week at the Legacy Bowl. He really did. He's one of those guys I thought in the game didn't get a chance to show as much in the game, but he showed a lot during the week, every practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I thought he was a pretty standout player as well, and I like the Brown kid at quarterback. Is he kind of? You said he's been showing a lot of leadership ability. Does it look like he's going to be walking in first in the fall?
Well, we hadn't gone to spring practice yet, and
right.
we brought in some guys. We brought in a couple transfers. One from Western Michigan, kid from over in Atlanta, and then we brought a kid in from Birmingham that had been at Wofford. This young man actually played at Fairfield High School and Pleasant Grove High School, and so we've got some competition. That's what we've tried to do. We've tried to bring in and create competition at each and every position. But obviously, if you look at the body of work and the resume, and I tell the players this all the time. I tell them, look, when we go out there for spring ball and we send that first group out there, somebody's got to go out there first. All right. So if we're doing that, obviously Quad's going out there first because you look at his resume, his body of work, that's just the way it works. But I tell the players also, man, that depth chart, man, it's dynamic, man. It changes. It's not static. It's not set in stone. And they understand that. And I've got a saying that I tell them all the time. I tell them, look, every day you show up, for practice, you show up in the weight room, the classroom, man, there's a sign on the door, and that sign says now hiring. So every day you're trying to get hired for that job. And Coach, I know you understand that one. So that depth chart can change now, but we got to start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. And normally we're going to put the guy out there that's, basically got the biggest resume and, the guy that's got the most experience.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, speaking of your staff at Miles College, and I see Stanley Connors kind of branched off the Lane College job. As you know, and I know that when you have a good staff, you're going to lose some. And off that staff, I think you got produced two head coaches underneath your tree, the one that stayed at Miles as well as Stanley Connors.
Well, so Coach Connor first, man, Coach Connor, awesome coach, been around, been a lot of places, man, very articulate, great recruiter, great coach. Could probably coach any position on offense or defense and do a great job. He was actually he was going to come to Alabama A&M with me, but he pulled me to the side at one point and he said, Coach, hey man, this Lane job is open and they're talking to me. And I said, well, Coach, if it works out, man, I'm happy for you. If not, let's roll at Alabama A&M. Yeah. But it actually worked out. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask Coach Bishop. You remember Stanley Connors, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
For Jackson State.
Mm-hmm.
He can run it too, Coach.
Oh yeah. He tremendous player at Jackson State, man. Played in the Canadian League for a long time. Did a good job as the head coach at Benedict. That's the other thing about Coach Connor. He was one of those coaches that I had on my staff that had been in my shoes as a HBCU head coach and was able to, help try to, pivot me away from some of the pitfalls and things like that. he, along with obviously Coach George Pugh, who used to be the head coach here at Alabama A&M, that was on my staff at Miles College, and Coach Pugh, he's one that also was a big mentor to me, and really just helped me those 3 years I was at Miles College as far as with some of the things that come up as a HBCU head coach.
Yeah. Now, I didn't see you mention, is he going to be with you at A&M, or he said he's going to come visit?
Well, yeah, he's going to come visit. Coach Pugh, he's getting up there a little bit, man, and, just making that move. I'll just say he's got a nice spread down in Birmingham, and sometimes I think you get to a point where you say, okay, I'm gonna sit this one out. Yeah.
Can you get about a minute? Just give us Coach Pugh, because I've been trying to get him on the show, about what he was the first of at the University of Alabama, and everybody knows George Pugh. He's been around a long time.
Yeah, he has. He was one of the first African-American players at the University of Alabama. A lot of people say Bear Bryant said he had the best hands he had ever seen, man. He was a tight end at Alabama, and before the likes of Ozzie Newsome. But that's what a lot of people, talk about with Coach Pugh. And he's one of those guys, man, got into coaching, has been a lot of places, man. You name it. He's probably been there, the Texas A&M, the Arkansas, head coach at Alabama A&M, so he was a big resource for me at Miles College.
Yeah. Coach, hearing your staff and, again, watching them play the last game of the year and seeing they had a lot of talent on the team, but you're understanding a lot of them left. And, you played at the big time. You've been a professional athlete, but you kind of have done things, quote unquote, what coaches, and it's fair to call you a career coach, and, I hear all the things and people around you. Seems like you got a good group around you to help you with those pitfalls. Kind of talk about that, the guys around you coming from the pros. And of course, some of the guys are coming straight from professional ranks or jumping into these head jobs. Kind of, what's your thought about that?
Well, I know for myself, I'll give you a story. For instance, I can remember being in pro ball early on and having a particular coach that might not have been as seasoned at that time as, he probably needed to be. And then I can remember later on seeing this same coach go on years later to win a Super Bowl as an assistant coach. And I tell people all the time, in coaching, I do believe that you can get better. Like, you start at one point and you can take yourself, to a higher point. So the only thing I'll say, when you got someone that probably hasn't coached, I think that they might not, have as much seasoning as, some coaches that have been in it for a long time and, that have, maybe had to work their way up the ranks. For instance, myself, I started out as a middle school coach. I started out coaching middle school ball, did ninth grade, did high school. And the thing I took from middle school was the first thing you learn in coaching, especially if you're a former NFL player, professional athlete, that you have to learn is these guys aren't you. Like, what might have came easy for you, it's probably not going to come easy for them. So you really got to do a good job of developing those guys and giving them a foundation, to stand on and to kind of take off from. So that was the first thing. You learn that, and you just learn that some things they don't know. So you got to make sure that you start from the ground up and you build them. And that's what we do. We still do that to this day. We do it right here at Alabama A&M. That's one of the big things for me. I tell my coaches is we got to do a great job of laying the foundation for our players and, making sure that you know, when things get hard, they've got that foundation that they can lean back on, and that's going to get them through.
Yeah.
Coach Shay, let me ask you a similar question in a different way, Coach.
Right.
Does playing in the NFL give you any advantage as a head coach in Division I HBCU football?
That's a, you know, that's a tough one. I think if it does, it's not very much. I think it might be slight. You know, obviously, I think it depends sometimes on who you are. I think from a recruiting standpoint, you know, if you've got a, you know, really big name and a lot of people know you, I think it could help you in recruiting. I think that's, you know, one of the things that it'll help you in. As far as just the coaching side of it, I think when you start coaching, I think it's just all about, you know, what your experiences are as a coach, what's been poured into you as a coach. I think all that stuff takes over at that point. But I do think that, you know, NFL guys, some of those guys with the bigger names, I think it does help them from a recruiting standpoint.
Let me ask a little question, Coach. Playing in the NFL, playing at the University of Alabama, there's something called a cerebral player. There's some guys that you've played with in the NFL. There's some guys you played with in the pros that when I say cerebral, and you were a cerebral player from Alabama to the pros because you stood out. You stood out not only just as a good player, you stood out as a leader in the locker room.
Coach, he signed with the Redskins. I'm not going to agree with that.
All right, you're an Eagles fan or a Cowboys fan?
Cowboy fan. America's team. Five-time Super Bowl champ.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when you look back, you know, again, you know, of guys who's coaching now and who's not coaching, and you kind of hit on it a little bit. How important is that? Now, if you took a guy from the pros that was a cerebral player, that means he knew, you know, about the equipment man. He talked to the head coach. He talked to the general manager. You know, he wanted to know everything. He knew what the front line, what the back end done. To me, that's more of a guy that can come into coaching and then have some understanding of what's going on. But when you're not that cerebral player, but that don't make you good or not, because there's some guys that's, and you've seen them, that they so damn athletic, you know, and they the best athlete on the field, and they know their position, but they don't know nothing else. You know, have you seen those players, and have you seen players that are cerebral, meaning they know the game in and out?
I have, Coach. I mean, I think you hit on it. You've got guys like those cerebral players that you talked about that, you know, talk to everybody in the building, the scouts, the GM, the coaches. I know I had some great relationships with some coaches, and even got a chance, like you said, to get to know some of the scouts and GMs and stuff. And you do have some guys that, you know, there's some guys that are about, hey man, I'm just gonna do my job. I know what I've got to do. I'm not worried about what anybody else has to do, and I'm fine with that. Like as a player, that never bothered me that this cornerback or whoever didn't know what everybody did. Like I did, but as long as he's out there doing his job, I really didn't care. But you're right though. You know, some guys just, you know, after they're finished playing, they're not looking to get into coaching, you know, because they could care less about, you know, what everybody else was doing.
But Coach Shade, so what Coach Cole is pointing to is something that for you. No, this is serious though, Coach Cole, because I want to point this out. For years, I think athletic, physically dominant, whatever you want to call it, players have been discriminated against in the coaching profession because those guys were assumed to have some type of physical advantage that led to their success, which led them not to get opportunities to actually coach the game that they were dominant in. I think that's a level of discrimination or that I don't think should exist, especially at the HBCU level. Now, I'm not saying a guy's qualified just because he played in the NFL, but I'm just saying, even as a position coach, you can't assume the guy doesn't know the game because he ran a 4.2 and could, and had hands like suction cups.
Let me stop
what I mean?
right there. That's exactly what you're saying, is that because he plays in the NFL, that makes him a coach. And I'm trying to tell you, I've had opportunities to coach kids up on the NFL, and it's more to coaching than just playing at the highest level. So, I mean, there's so many other dynamics about and around being a head football coach, Rocky.
I understand that, coach, at a head coach, but when you take a guy like Coach, let me ask you this, Coach.
Okay.
Why can't a guy like a Sam Shade transition to a position coach shortly after his career is over for the Redskins, for the Cowboys, for the Eagles, and a guy who never played the game before at that level, has a father or grandfather that's part of the coaching profession, he gets the opportunity to get the coaching. They say, Sam, you have to go coach somewhere else because this job is for Mike Jr. You know what I mean? And I know I'm talking about something that may not be relevant in this situation, but I think great NFL players or successful NFL players historically just don't roll into those positions as well as I think they should. I don't know if they want to coach, but it seems like you would be a candidate shortly after your career being a safety that you could have went and been a DB coach at the highest level, or at least at the D1 level.
I think you're right. Now, I will say this though, for a lot of players, and I tell a lot of young guys that I know that are playing in NFL, and I've told them for years, if you think you want to coach, go ahead and start talking about that with coaches and different personnel people, and talk about that opportunity that you want, because that's the best time to do it is right after you finish playing. But if you wait, then that window starts to close, because what happens is the guys that you played for, maybe they're not, in 10 years, they might not be coaching anymore. And so they can't open those doors for you, or some of those personnel people. And so I tell young guys that I know that are playing, and I've got a couple guys that are still playing. I just tell them, look, if you think you want to coach, start right there in the NFL. Start there, and then if you don't like it, you can work your way down to college. But I think it's tougher to work your way back up to it.
Yeah. And can I piggyback off this, Sam? And Rocky, you are 100% right. It ain't what you know, it's who you know. But again, for us as Blacks, that don't own the team, and like you say, those jobs, and Sam, you probably could attest to this. Yeah, there's some white kids that has came through the family, or family or friend of other people are taking those jobs, and that's true up in the NFL. I mean, my college roommate Brett Maxey, you know Coach Maxey.
Yeah. Coach Maxey.
I mean, he was in Atlanta, and we end up meeting up in Atlanta, and he had this white young guy with him that was actually coaching the linebackers and never coached in college. You know what I'm saying? But he was married to somebody's daughter. And you're right. You are absolutely correctly right. But being a cerebral guy, and just like Sam was saying, you got to start letting them know and putting that your contacts out there and things out there now while you still as a player, so you can walk into an analyst job or something like that.
Right.
And,
Coach,
get that experience.
I give an example of a guy who did that. D'Amico Ryans. He's from Beltsville, Alabama. He's younger than me, but he's one of those guys that did it, man. He right after he got done playing, he, stepped right into it and, was like a quality control guy for a minute. And, then he moves up to a linebacker coach and he's a sharp guy. He's that guy you're talking about, Coach. Very cerebral. A lot of people don't know it, man. He was like a 4.0 guy at the University of Alabama, won like one of the top student athletes in the nation in football. And so, but he's one of those guys that jump right into it, and you see the success that he's having. And I try to tell other guys to try to do the same thing if they think they want to coach.
Just like Eddie Robinson Jr. down at Alabama State, academician, great player, cerebral football player. Deion Sanders was another cerebral player.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So those are the type of guys that I will give some credit to, but attest to Sam, as he said, hey, I started off as a middle school coach, and I've learned some on every level to help him be a successful coach. Now that he's in college, and now, of course, this is a bigger job. And, I have to say, Sam, and we all on, cheering for you, that I just think that you're going to have some success there. I do. I really do.
I believe this, and I'll wrap up by saying this, right? Whether we agree or not, guys who played in the NFL are what I call 1%ers, right? They are 1% guys. Only certain guys will get that opportunity to even play on that level, not to mention have a 8, 9, 10-year career. If you end up doing that at the NFL level, I have to accept there's something special about you, Coach Shade. There's something different about you if you're able to be an NFL player for 5 to 10 years. There's something special about you. And you're not like everybody else if you're able to do that. And so you should get a privilege in the profession of football. I'm not saying you should be jump the line for other things, but as it relates to football, you should be given some credit there. You shouldn't have to be like one of your contemporaries, George Teague, have to go coach high school football in hopes to get a job in coaching when you just leave the Cowboys. You know what I mean? Like there shouldn't be. I don't understand that.
Well, Rock, I'll say this, man. You mentioned George Teague, man. Really good friend of mine. I just talked to him a few days ago. That's funny you mentioned.
Is he still in the Dallas area?
He's still in the Dallas area. He's a high school head coach and athletic director. Still doing some stuff for the Cowboys. Actually doing really well. Doing really well.
Well, let me say, here's your answer. 95% of athletic directors in this here college football in America are Caucasian. 72 and 73% of the players are African American. And it's been that. When you look at all the major schools, we don't even have 10% of the head coaches that are African American. Look at the 32 football teams, NFL football teams. And when you not only look at the staffs, you look at the trainers, all the way up to the top, you don't see a lot of African American.
All right, you guys got me?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So that's your answer. I think you are right. We should have those opportunities, but we don't. And
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. Can you hear us, Coach?
Can you hear us?
We hear you.
Let me text him. Yeah, he's looking.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Coach?
I just texted him. Coach.
Yeah, we can hear him.
Oh, he can't hear us. He must got his on mute.
Let me add him again.
Okay.
Coach, you guys can't hear me. I can't hear you though.
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine, Coach.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right.
We hear you just fine, Coach.
My battery went out on my laptop. Okay, you guys got me now?
Yeah, I got you. You got us?
Yes, I got you guys. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Yeah, but that's why Rocky and Mr. Bishop and Sam, that I wanted to create a show to let people hear African American coaches, because we don't have a platform. You know what I mean? Is it getting better? Yes, it's getting better, but it's nowhere near where it should be. And you are, Rocky. I think those guys up there on that level should get those opportunities, but they don't. You know, that it's a covenant. I mean, Coach Shade, you can probably test, because you were there and you looked around the program and you didn't see, or did you see a lot of us in those positions?
I did not. I can go back to pro ball. When I went to the Bengals, we only had 2 black coaches on the staff. That was the defensive back coach, guy by the name of Ron Meeks, and then we had our running back coach, and that was it. Same thing when I was at the University of Alabama. So I think there's something to what you're saying, Coach Cole, without a doubt, man. I think that, the opportunities haven't always been there. I think more opportunities are being created, but slowly.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
Well, Rocky, no, you go ahead and ask your serious question, because I wanted to defend something that Rocky tried to take a shot at you, Rocky, but you go ahead and ask your question. I ain't getting
I was just simply saying, Coach, your journey into coaching, did you get any preference as a former NFL player in your journey as a coach?
It actually was more about relationships. For instance, my first college assistant job, the head coach actually, a guy by the name of Pat Sullivan, man, the late, great Heisman Trophy winning Pat Sullivan, recruited me while he was at Auburn. I didn't go to Auburn, but we had a great relationship. And so when he was when he found out I was coaching, he called me up. We spent some time together, and next thing you know, I'm coaching college ball. So that was more I felt about just our relationship, like Coach Cole talks about those relationships, more so than, the ex-NFL player situation. But, I do think that it helps. It definitely helps. Obviously, even for me going to Miles College, I feel like that helped. Having that NFL background along with the coaching resume, I felt like that might have put me ahead of some other guys that were on that list possibly as potential coaches for that job.
All right, Coach, I got to defend you. Like I say, you part of my era. I got to defend you. So first of all, let me tell you something about Sam Shade. And Coach, I don't know. Me and my friends had an agency, and Sam Shade had a black agent, Mason Ash. One of my idols. And Rocky, let me tell you something about Mason Ash. He was smart enough to get Sam Shade to go to the Redskins, get a $2.5 million signing bonus, which at Coach, at the level you was at, which was huge, and $10.4 million. So let me tell you something. Going to Redskins was a very smart financial move. Now, Coach, I ain't counting your pocket, but I'm pretty sure you're a smart enough man that still got some of them pennies in your pocket. So we're going to put that to rest right there about your level of knowledge. Now, one of the things, too, Coach, is that I hear this, but Coach, like you just named, yourself, George Teague, D'Amico Ryan, you played with probably 10 first rounders on that defense.
No, I didn't play with D'Amico. He was younger.
No. I'm talking about people that are known as cerebral.
Right.
So I'm talking about the guy that you played with. You probably played with 10 first rounders almost during that time. But one of the things about it was you were always known as a guy that they said was a coach on the field. So I think a lot of that is already showing when you guys on the field. So while, yes, you might be a great NFL player, that is athletic ability. That has nothing to do with the point that I think Coach Cole is making and Coach Shea that you're making, that, again, you have to have a level of knowledge that while you were a great NFL player, you were always known as a smart player. That has never not been known about Sam Shade. So I think that has to come into play with a lot of guys. And not to say that these guys weren't smart, but I'm talking about players like yourself. And that's what I think a lot of times, too, that we have players that, hey, why didn't that guy coach? Everybody can't coach. And I think that's some of the things that we don't want to fall in HBCUs just because they have a name, right? And they say, hey, he has a name, that means he can coach. Because, Coach, as you well know, Coach Shade, as you well know, being a football player is totally different than you being a head coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I just wanted to, kind of clear that, because I think we get confused. And what I would like to see more is more, because I'm coaching, I'm a big fan. I'm super excited because, again, I came from the era, again, Pete Richardson, W.C. Gordon, Eddie Robinson, Archie Cool. I mean, J.K., all these guys, you know what I mean? And now I'm seeing you, Eddie Robinson, these young brothers coming up, you know what I mean? You guys are the next generation. You guys are the next generation. And you guys, you look good, you talk good, you're smart, and you also have a relatability that I think is going to do well for the alumni, because you represent Alabama A&M. You are that guy. But also you're going to be able to bring players that are going to represent that university. So I'm super excited, because I just don't want a guy, and like I say, and again, I'm not going to say names, but I would rather have a guy like you that understands what the mission than a guy that says, because I got a name, I think I know what the mission is. I think there's a difference.
Gotcha. Hey, now you just mentioned something. You mentioned Pete Richardson, man. I got to say, I had a chance to meet him at the HBCU Legacy Bowl and talk with him. Man, they had a lot of former HBCU greats that were there, man. It was, Robert Brazile, had a chance to spend some time with him, and Anton Bethea, and, I can keep going. Jay Skywalker, man, just a, bunch of guys. That's one of the deals that was pretty cool about that Legacy Bowl. All those former greats that were there for it.
Well, Coach, with that said, how excited were those guys to see you now? Again, a player that played at Alabama, but now coming over to the HBCU, as they say, coming home. How excited were those guys saying, "Hey, we're glad that you're here"? How did you feel that love and that camaraderie?
Well, it's just one of those things. I don't even think those guys look at it like, here's a guy that played at Alabama. Mm-hmm. I think they just look at it like, hey man, here's a guy that's been, that's been putting in some work, in HBCU football, and he's here. He's representing us. It's about, to me, it's about, where you are, when you're coaching, more so than exactly where all you came from and all that. But I don't think they look at it that way. I think they're just excited that, I chose to be there. For instance, the HBCU Legacy Bowl, they said it was the first time that they've had, all the coaches from the championship conferences there. So that was a big deal to them, for guys to be there for the game. And so, man, it was just a lot of love, just a lot of love from the former players, the former greats, and all the coaches. And the other thing, you had coaches came that weren't coaching in the game from other HBCUs. Obviously, Coach Joseph, the Grambling staff, and Pine Bluff, and you'd be amazed that Coach Robinson, Eddie Robinson, Bama State, man, all those coaches came, and they came and supported their players that were at the game. We fellowshiped, man, at the hotel. Some of the SIAC guys, Coach Aaron James, Tuskegee, Coach Quinn Gray, Albany State, Coach Brown from Lane, Varon Brown, Lane. All those guys came out and were very supportive of the players and the coaches like myself that were involved, man. It was just a great week for HBCU football.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of being coached by Pete Richardson in high school. And the same way he was in the high school, I had the opportunity to work for him as well. And you talking about, a cerebral guy, and a serious guy. It was just as tough playing for him as it was coaching for him, and of course, when he came into the conference at Southern, he kind of ruled things for about 15 straight years, so, you talk about great guys, man, but hey, Coach, we don't want to keep you, when the fall gets here, we're going to keep you.
Gotcha.
Hey, Coach, can I ask Coach one more question? Though?
Oh, yeah, Coach.
One last question, Coach. What I asked Coach Eddie Robinson this, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this because you played at Alabama. You're hearing a lot of coaches on the higher level saying, hey, we don't want to do spring games anymore. And A-Day is a big thing in Alabama, and you're going to have spring. What is when you heard that and you saw these coaches say, hey, we're not going to do spring games or anything like that, what is your thought process about that overall? And do you think that's going to come down to the HBCU level, that we're not going to have spring games because that is a big recruiting time for us? And like I say, just to see the players. What is your thought about that?
I don't think that's going to come down to HBCUs or even to FCS, because it sounded like it was the guys that, you know, went to the playoffs on the FBS level. I think like Texas and different people that might have played 14, 15 games or whatever. I think they're saying that, you know, they want to kind of limit, you know, some of those reps that those guys, those live reps that some of their players are getting. And, you know, for us on this FCS level, and particularly, you know, being at Alabama A&M, if we have a great season, we'd go to the Celebration Bowl. And for us, that would make 14 games. You know, I just don't see us getting away from the spring game right now, like some of those schools are talking about. And then the other thing, a lot of those guys are losing. They don't have full rosters right now also, and I think that's a part of it.
Well, Coach, I got to ask you one more question because I can't let Campbell outdo me, Coach. Coach, you've been part of some big-time rivalries. You know, probably when I look at the rivalries you've been part of, Alabama, Auburn, Cincinnati, and we're not going to talk about that. My wife is from Cincinnati, so you hear in the background.
Who they?
Of course, the granddaddy of them all, Dallas Cowboys, and whatever that other team is in DC. You're going into your first year, Coach. If you had a choice today, a SWAC championship or a win in the Magic City Classic, what you gonna take?
Woo! Well, Rocky, I believe you gotta win the Magic City Classic. On winning the SWAC.
See, I told you this man is smart. You can't coach. You got to win them all in the East, Coach. You drop down, you ain't gonna make it, baby.
You pretty much got to win them all, man. Yeah, you got to win them all.
Well, you're a smart man, Coach.
Man, listen, I told you, man. That's
you sound like
guy.
a man you sound like a man want to keep his job, Coach.
Absolutely.
What are they done, up to 4 in a row, 3 in a row? What are they up to now?
3
in a row, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach, tell them you 0-0. Tell them that's the streak that you on. You 0-0.
I did say it's the off season. We're 0-0 right now. 0-0.
Hey, Sam, I tell you, I've been in that game 3 times, boy, and you can feel the sweat coming down on them sidelines, man. Every play, every series is big, you know. So yeah.
Well, like I say, Coach Robinson is making a pretty good living over there at Alabama State.
Yeah.
You know, so I think A&M is past due. That's all I'll say, Coach.
I got you, but I'll tell you right now, man, the one that we're preparing for right now is August 31st in Fayetteville, Arkansas, man. We got those Arkansas Razorbacks. So that's the one we've been talking about around here, and that's the one that we're getting ready for.
When is your spring game, Coach?
Our spring game is Saturday, April 12th.
Okay.
Saturday, April 12th.
We got that down?
Yeah, we got it.
3 p.m., April 12th.
Coach, I might have to roll over there up on you now, man. I might have to come check you out from Atlanta. I might have to roll up on you now.
Well, your Rattlers came over last night, man, for some basketball over at the at our arena. It was a pretty good game.
Yeah, you had to bring that up, didn't you? I wasn't going to mention that, but you had to bring it up. That's right.
Yeah, we took the whole team out there to support, man, and pull the Bulldogs through, man.
That's
good,
man.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
He signed that contract and take an L the next week, boy. Ain't that so?
Hey, smart man.
Did y'all hear what Sam done? He took the whole team over there. That was a team event.
Team activity, Coach. That's activity.
Right. That's right, Coach. That's right.
Voluntary, mandatory, huh?
Championship coach.
If it's a team activity, you better be there.
You better. I'm taking names. I'm shaking hands and taking names.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome. Hey, Coach Shade. Hey, I want to thank you for coming on, man. Coach, I thought this was your third time. This is just your second time, Coach. You turned us down after No, I'm just messing with you. No, you did a great interview with your people at Alabama A&M and gave us a lot of information. And so that's what I remember watching. And so this is your second time. We had you at the SIAC championship before the SIAC championship game, and you put something on Teddy Keaton. I ain't heard from him since. No, I'm just joking. And
man, I'll tell you what, man. Teddy now that man, Clark Atlanta, they got a lot of good players coming back on that team.
Oh yeah. They got a quarterback is something else, man.
Well, they end up losing the quarterback. He won't be back.
Wow.
Yeah, he won't be back. Sam Shade, man, shortened his career, man. Oh. He intercepted boy about 14 times in 2 games. Running all that 3 cloud and cover 3 and robber, and he didn't know where they were coming from. Hell, he thought they had 13, 14 men on the field. That's Coach Shellings.
That was good players, man.
That Coach Shellings over there doing all that, rotating the coverage in the front and all that. Yeah, that's a good job. Y'all did a good job.
I'll tell Coach Shell you said that.
Yeah. Thank you, Coach. You've been good, man. I appreciate you. You guys got anything?
No, I'm good.
Coach, we can't wait to see you come back, and you come back at the end of the season, you can tell us about that hard-fought loss against FAMU, and we can talk about that.
Coach, we got work to do, man. We got a lot of work to do. So a lot of work, man. Hey.
I'll be looking for some more portal work after the spring game and see what y'all do.
And tell my boy Ken Evans, man, to hang in there.
Coach, I sure will, man. I sure will. Guys, I appreciate it, man. Thank y'all for all y'all do, man, for HBCU athletics, man. And, hey, man, go Bulldogs.
Thank you.
Yeah. Man, hey, another great interview. Yeah. And that was the head coach of Alabama A&M, Coach Sam Shade. Yeah. Hey, that's all for me, folks. Y'all got anything?
Man, that's good, man. Shoot, man, we got the one thing. I think I sent it to you guys about February 28th.
We got the 28th.
Y'all didn't get it. I didn't get it to you.
About not shopping, not spending no money.
Hey, man, Coach, we already. You see my background, Coach.
I'm already on board. I ain't gonna spend nothing.
Hey, look,
I just gotta convince Keisha.
I don't need to spend nothing anyway on the 27th. Let alone the 28th.
Let's start early.
Yeah. So whatever we need to do, man. Hey, appreciate everybody, man. And hey, man, we had a good one. We're gonna have a one next week. So looking forward to it. Always thank you guys for coming on the show. Thank you guys for the support. As always, man, if you feel yourself at the end of the rope, tie a knot and hold on tight, because ain't nobody bad like you.
My name is JM&E, and I won $500 for lunch for keeping up with the Jonas Bracket Challenge.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.